Okay, so here we are continuing on with our Space Invaders game. So we've got, so far we've built our game object class that kind of controls the game objects. For some memory saving purposes, we also built a separate game object for the entire alien fleet so that we could use less memory for creating all those aliens. And we've done some work to move them, and we made it so we can control the spaceship and fly that back and forth. And so it looks kind of something like this now, so you can kind of go back and forth, left and right, fire the laser, and then you can see when the aliens get hit, they disappear. Okay, and so now what we want to do is basically add in, if the aliens get to the bottom, it should be a lose state, right? And so you lose the game, and or if they crash in the spaceship, and then probably if if you are able to eliminate all the aliens, maybe it starts the next level or something. So we want to kind of implement those things now, possibly also keep score. And so that's where we're going to go now. And so the first thing we'll do is we have our loop, and we're going to actually change this to call this the game loop. Okay, and what that's going to do is we're going to make a separate loop function here. So we have our loop now, and then we have our game loop. Okay, and I'll add the prototype here to the top so that it will compile. And so the game loop, we'll just put in here. And so at this point, it seems pretty unnecessary, but what this will allow us to do is to have some different game states. And so what we're going to do is we'll come up here and we'll make a type for tracking the game states. So we're going to say up here, we'll say type def enum. And enum is a way that you can give like names for states, I suppose. And we'll call it game state type. Okay? And then we want to end it with the placement. So basically, we can call this type by saying enum game state type, but doing the type def, we can call it just game state type. Okay, so without this, anytime we want to use this, we'd have to put these two things, but having the type def there allows us just to use this. Okay, and so let's see what types we want to use. We probably want to have waiting to start. Okay, so that'd be like our first state. So it powers on, it's waiting to start the game. Game on. Then we'll have game over. Okay, and so we can add more game states to this later, but we'll make a variable called, so game state type is our type, and we'll call it game state, and we'll say waiting to start. All right, and so now we have something to track the state of our game, and at the beginning we're waiting to start. And so coming down here to our game loop, we're going to do switch on our game state, and then we can have our cases. So case, and what will be helpful is to, when we come back to here with our enum, for the purposes of like namespaces and stuff, well, we'll just leave it like this actually. Okay, so we have waiting to start. Okay, and then we're going to do a colon, and then we're going to do a break. Okay, case, the game on, break, and then case, game over, break. And then we'll add a default case so that if we ended up adding other states and it gets into those, we can print an error message, serial.println supported game state. Okay, and so that way if we add a game state up here and we ended up into that game state, but we haven't supported it yet, then we can handle that. Okay, and so we're going to put the game loop inside the game on case. And so now when the game is on, we have our game loop. In the waiting to start, we're going to have poll for input, and then we will make that function now. So let's make our poll for input function. So void poll for input. Actually, let's make it a bool. Okay. And so we'll say if, so if it detects an input, we're going to set the game state to be game on. And so that will start the game. Okay, so now we need to make that poll for input function. And so we'll do it right down here. Actually, all the way down here, the bottom. So say bool poll for input. And now we're going to do if, actually what we'll do is we'll return digital read. Digital read, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll say, so we've got the left button for digital read right button or digital read trigger button. So we're going to read all these buttons, and if one of them is pressed, we'll start the game. Okay, and so let's go ahead and test this. Okay, so I tested it and it didn't work, and here's why. Something that I forgot is this. So these are input pull-ups, and so they're going to read true unless they're pressed. So we need to add a little knot here in front of them. We'll go ahead and put it on the next line here, like that, or like that. Okay, now that should do the trick, so let's check that out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and run this. Now when it starts running, the screen's going to be black, and we're not going to see anything. So the next thing would be to do is to add like a boot screen for our game. So we see nothing here. I press a button, and then the game starts. Okay, and so that's all working right now. So the next thing we want to do, sorry, is we want to add maybe a game like a start screen for our game, so that we can see that it's waiting for us to press a button, and then we'll go ahead and handle the game over states as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make some functions that will render the different screens for us. So we want to probably a start screen or a load screen and a game over screen. And so what we'll do is we're going to say void render load screen. Let's do underscores. Okay, and we'll define that there. And we'll also do a game over screen. Render game over screen. Okay, so we have those. We put those prototypes up at the top. And then we'll be able to call these functions in order to when we want to render those screens. So let's start with the load screen. So we're going to say we're going to clear the display. So display dot clear display. So clear our display. So clear out the buffer, and then we're going to write some text. So we want to set the set text size to, and then if we come to here, So we have these are the text sizes, and so this would be 6 by 8 pixels, 12 by 16 pixels, 18 by 24. And these are, I guess, multiples of 6. So like 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 6 is 18, and so on. So we don't have a ton of space, so probably size 2 is the best that we can do, I would imagine. So we're going to set that text size, though, and then we're going to set the text color. Set text color to white. Okay, so we do all that. Now we're going to set the cursor. So we have to say where we want to draw our text. Dot set cursor, and we'll set it. I wrote this down. I made one already, so I had it at 5 and 10. Okay. Nope, that's wrong. Let's see, 10 and 10. Let's say 10 and 10. Okay. Now we'll draw a title. So we'll say display dot print. So we don't infringe on any copyright or trademark. We're going to call this alien attack. Okay. So then we have alien, and then let's see, we're going to set it to 50 and 28. Attack. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say display.set text size, and we're going to say put it to 1, so smaller text. Then we do display.print, and we're going to say, oh, we're going to set our cursor first. So display dot set cursor. We're going to set this to be now 1 and 50. So when we set the cursor, the first one is the X position or coordinate, and the second one is the Y coordinate. And so this one is a long string of text, and so squeeze it on the screen. We've got to start all the way at the beginning. And then we're going to say press button to begin. Okay, now it's going to render our load screen. We're going to take this and we're going to put it right here in our setup. So at the start, it renders that load screen, just like that. Before this can work, though, we actually do need to have it to show it and push that to the display. So we just display dot display, just like that. Okay, and that will push it to the screen. So we'll go ahead and show it in the simulator. Okay, so we'll run this, and now we see our load screen right here. We press the button, it starts the game. Now you'll notice there's a little bug here. For example, if we press this button to start, it's going to register that as the weapon firing at the beginning. So we should take care of that bug before we're done here. So let's go ahead and do the game over screen as well. So for our game over screen, we're going to really do, I'm going to kind of copy all this. Okay, and then we're going to change it. So we clear the display. We're going to set our text size of 2 and set the color to white. And we're going to set our cursor to, instead of 10 and 10, we're going to set it to 5 and 10. And we're going to say game over. Okay, now we're going to set our cursor, or we're going to set our text size to 1 and set our cursor to 50 and 28, and we're going to print out our score. So we'll say score, and then we're going to have a display print, and we'll print here the current score. So this is a global variable that we'll create to keep track of the current score. So up here, we're just going to say uint16t current score. We'll start at 0. And actually, let's put it down here. Okay. And so when we start our new game, we want to reset our current score to 0. Okay. All right. So from here, we got our current score printed on the screen. It should just be 0 right now. And then finally, we've got, we'll say, set the cursor to 1 and 45. I'm going to say press button. This one kind of wraps around, so we'll just put on 2 lines. And we'll set the next line to be at 55. And we'll set that to be 2. Continue. Okay, and so now we've got our start game and game over screens. Let's go ahead and display that game over screen here so we can see it. So if I come up to here, I'm just gonna, for testing purposes, I'm gonna render it at the start. So render game over screen. We'll run that and see what it looks like. And there, I've got our game over screen, so their score. Okay, and so that's good. We'll go ahead and get rid of this though because we're not in the game over state, we're in the load screen state. And we'll go ahead and stop there. And so the next part will be handling that game over and loading that game over state and then being able to reset the screen. Okay.